I didn't think you'd come. Wrenna smiled softly, the tension in her shoulders easing just slightly. You expect me to miss an opportunity to see you under the stars? I'd be a fool. He chuckled, a warm rumble that somehow cut through the chill. More like brave. The air feels thick with danger tonight. Zaire took a step forward, closing the distance. Tell me, what do you see when you look at that sky? Wrenna tilted her head back, searching the stars, their light twinkling like the dreams she sometimes dared to dream. I see possibilities, beauty, but also uncertainty. Like every star has a story, but most of them are just too far away to ever reach. Perhaps you just need a better telescope, Zaire suggested, his expression shifting, a mixture of both amusement and deeper contemplation. You know, there's power in knowing how to reach for what seems unattainable. Wrenna lowered her gaze, the vulnerability washing over her once again. It's easier to admire from afar than to risk being disappointed. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her heart pounding as the air thickened with unsaid truths. Sometimes disappointment can lead to unexpected revelations, he said, stepping closer, the space between them increasingly intimate. Is it worth living behind walls? Sometimes, Wrenna replied, her voice barely a whisper. Those walls feel safer than exposing my heart, especially when it sounds so reckless. Recklessness often leads to discovery, he replied, leaning against the tree, his expression a mixture of playfulness and seriousness. Remember when you painted that mural at the community center? You took a risk, and it spawned a movement. She laughed, the sound light and edged with warmth, and almost got us in trouble with Mrs. Tompkins for painting over her favorite family mural in the first place. That was not a joyride. But look at what you created. A gathering of people, new friendships formed amid the chaos, Zaire said, eyes sparkling now. What if we took that spirit tonight? Out of all those folk tales, what's the wildest one that excites you? Wrenna felt the heat rising in her cheeks, her heartbeat dancing to an exhilarating rhythm. The one where someone risks it all for love, despite the chaos around them. Life is chaos, Wrenna. Love is an act of rebellion, Zaire said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone. You think if we dared to break the rules, the universe might just reward us? The world around them faded, the cacophony of the night softening into a gentle hum as their eyes lingered, the weight of their shared histories wrapping around them like a soft blanket. What if this chaos has been waiting for our commitment? He murmured. We could be agents of change, creating beauty together. Is it enough to defy the risks? She asked, her heart racing with what felt like exhilarating madness. Isn't it worth exploring? Zaire's gaze anchored her, pulling down the barriers she'd carefully constructed. There was a depth in his eyes that whispered of secrets she longed to grasp. What if I promised to protect you through the storm? Her breath caught, vulnerability overtaking her defenses. Promise? Every word I say is a vow, Wrenna. Under this sky, where we can be bold, we can take this chance. For a beat, they stood suspended in time, the cosmos echoing their silent pledge. Then let's rewrite the stories they think they know, she declared, stepping forward. As their hands brushed, the thrill surged between them, and beneath the vast mosaic of stars, everything felt possible. Scene 44. Moments of doubt. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden hue over the lush greenery surrounding Wrenna's inherited mansion. A gentle breeze stirred the air, fragrant with blooming jasmine, and as she stepped out onto the sprawling terrace, a sense of unease tightened Wrenna's chest. The laughter of friends mingled with the clinking of glasses from the celebratory gathering inside, yet all she could feel was the distance that had grown between her and Zaire. Wrenna fidgeted with the delicate necklace her grandmother had left her, the silver filigree cold against her skin. Memories danced like phantoms, and she couldn't shake the feeling that, beneath Zaire's charisma and unwavering confidence, there lurked an abyss of secrets that loomed over them. Her heart raced as she remembered their last conversation, the trust that had faltered like an outdated promise. Wrenna? Zaire emerged from the house, his presence commanding and tangible. His dark suit fit him like armor, the fabric clinging to a frame shaped not just by his lineage but his choices. His eyes, usually so warm, now scanned her face for clues. You all right? Just contemplating, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Contemplating what? Because if it's about the party, I think everyone inside would rather have you join them than stand out here brooding. Zaire crossed his arms, a hint of annoyance creeping into his tone. She turned her gaze away, the colors of the sky blurring with her rising frustration. You think I'm brooding? Perhaps I'm just trying to figure out how I feel. About what? He asked, the edge of impatience seeping through. He stepped closer, but she instinctively moved back, breaking the tension with distance. About you. About us, Wrenna said, her voice firm yet fragile. Every time I think I know you, another part of you is hidden away. What am I supposed to do with that? Zaire's expression shifted, a flash of hurt flickering in his eyes before it was masked. You think I'm hiding from you? This isn't about hiding, it's about trust. Can I truly trust you? Wrenna's heart plunged, and as silence settled heavily between them, she could almost taste the vulnerability in the air. Teenage laughter chimed from the balcony above, but her focus remained unwavering on him. I told you I would protect you, Wrenna, he stated, his voice low and steady. But protection comes with knowing truths that can hurt. Is that why you pulled away last week? She pressed, her breath catching. I felt you going cold on me, Zaire. Why? Because you don't know what it's like to be responsible for people's lives, he replied, frustration spilling into his words. Decisions have to be made, even if they're messy. Messy? Like keeping secrets? Like hiding your past? She retorted, her voice rising. How do you expect me to understand when I'm always on the outside? Zaire shook his head, the tension radiating from his being. I invited you into my world, Wrenna. The problem is you keep denying it when it gets hard. Because it's hard for me. Her voice echoed against the marble columns, and the truth of her fear hung in the air. You're deeply entangled with a life I'm afraid of. I thought this was a partnership, but it feels like I'm just an afterthought. Zaire caught her gaze, searching. That's not how I see you. You're everything to me. For a moment, the world around them dimmed, an intimate silence enveloping them. The gravitational pull shifted as Wrenna inhaled sharply, feeling the warmth between them crackle anew. Then show me your world. Show me the person behind all those layers. He moved closer again, and this time, Wrenna didn't retreat. Their eyes locked, and all the noise from the party faded into a distant murmur. Zaire reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear, with a tenderness that sent a jolt through her. I'll do anything it takes, but you have to choose to see me. I want to, she murmured, her heart drumming in her chest, unsure but intrigued. But it's hard. Life is hard, Wrenna, he said, leaning in closer still, his voice wrapping around her like a soothing balm. Trust and risk go hand in hand. The distance which separated them felt like a chasm, but Wrenna took a breath, her senses heightened, aware of the scent of his cologne mingling with the jasmine. Then help me bridge that gap. With that simple yet profound request, Zaire closed the space between them, but their world, fraught with darkness and distrust, loomed just beyond the terrace, threatening to steal this moment of fragile clarity. Scene 45, A Leader's Burden. Raindrops tapped erratically on the window panes of the sprawling Vellore estate, each droplet a reminder of the storm brewing inside Zaire Vellore's mind. He leaned against the mantel, the stark contrast of the flickering fire casting elongated shadows against his tall, lithe frame. Despite the warmth enveloping the room, a chill gripped his heart, a gnawing feeling of neglect toward Wrenna. He ran a hand through his short, tightly coiled hair, momentarily losing himself in thought. Every day brought new challenges, new responsibilities within his organization. Lists of names and plans buzzed through his mind like angry wasps, but all he could think about was Wrenna's laughter and the way her vibrant paintings brought color to his monochrome world. When the tension in his chest became unbearable, he strode across the dark wood floor toward his study, only to come face to face with Wrenna, her silhouette framed by the tremulous shadows of the flickering candlelight. Zaire, you're home late again, Wrenna quipped, her voice a mix of concern and irritation, tinged with the sweetness of the lemon tea she'd been brewing. I couldn't leave until the meeting finished, he replied, his voice steady, though the impulse to pull her into an embrace gnawed at him. You know how it is. We're at a critical juncture right now. Yes, but what about us? She challenged, crossing her arms as frustration sparked in her expressive eyes, emerald green flecked with gold. The look on her face should have made him laugh, but it only deepened the aching sensation in his chest. He stepped toward her, longing to reach out and soothe the storm of emotions flickering across her features. Wrenna, I just don't understand why it always comes down to your organization, she interrupted, her voice rising with each syllable. Will it ever be just us? Outside, thunder rumbled, emphasizing the undercurrents in their conversation. Rain licked against the windows like the secrets they both harbored, unspoken lies that churned between them. Zaire took a deep breath, pressing a hand to the back of his neck. The weight of their unresolved issues sat like a boulder, heavy and unyielding. I want it to be, he said finally, his voice low and steady, yet the sincerity in his tone barely broke through the wall of tension that had grown between them. It's just what? Wrenna challenged, stepping closer, narrowing the space that he had kept between them. It's complicated, Zaire admitted, feeling the prick of vulnerability. You don't know what I'm dealing with. Then show me, she insisted, her voice quieting, turning almost pleading. Let me in. Zaire met her gaze, the fiery spark of challenge in her eyes, coaxing him closer, loosening the knot in his chest. The fire's crackle filled the space between them, an unintentional match setting ablaze the desires they'd both tried to contain. He saw it then, the fragile bridge between them, just a leap away. Time seemed to suspend as he took a step forward, his heart hammering in time with the rain. Wrenna, he breathed, reaching out and capturing one of her hands in his. It felt impossibly warm against his palm. I just need you to trust me. The flickering shadows danced against her face as he leaned in, their breaths mingling. She held his gaze, her eyelids fluttering down, before rising again, inviting him closer. Zaire's emotions surged, raw and unfiltered, as he whispered, I want you with me, even through the storms. As if pulled by an invisible force, their lips met soft and tentative at first, a sweet exploration of longing and vulnerability. The sensation curled around them, a protective cocoon that shimmered against the turbulent world outside. The kiss deepened, shattering the silence surrounding them, while each pulse of desire pierced through the rest of the night's chaos. When they finally broke apart, Wrenna's cheeks glowed with the warmth of the fire, brightening her beautiful features. Zaire's breath was ragged, filled with promises unspoken. Just hold on to me, she murmured, her voice a delicate thread interlacing with his heart. Even when it gets messy. With the storm still roaring outside, he nodded, the heaviness in his heart lifting as their fingers entwined. How could he explain that even as a leader, the burden of love was still the heaviest weight he'd ever carried? Scene 46, a dangerous game. The late afternoon sun slanted through the tall windows of Wrenna Vanderbilt's inherited mansion, illuminating the dust motes dancing lazily in the air. She stood at the kitchen island, deftly chopping fresh basil, the scent sharp and fragrant, mingling with the sweetness of tomatoes simmering on the stove. Outside, the rustle of wind through trees cast a serene backdrop, yet inside, a storm brewed in her heart. Zaire Vellore's presence washed over her, a tangible magnetic force. His laugh echoed through the space, warm and rich, sending shivers down her spine as he recounted a story about his latest dealings. But amid his laughter, Wrenna sensed an undercurrent, a tension that twisted her stomach. The knife paused midair, basil lying forgotten as she turned to face him. Zaire, she began, her voice barely above a whisper, mindful of the heavy atmosphere pressing down around them. He paused, his brow furrowing. What's on your mind? Her hands shook slightly, the basil knife revealing the wear of countless meals shared between their worlds. I overheard something today at the gallery about a new player in town, someone connected to your world. Zaire planted his hands on the counter, his jaw tightening into a hard line that sent waves of unease crashing over her. What did you hear? The name Cyrus came up, she admitted, the name slipping through her lips like ice. People are saying he's not someone to mess with, that he's already stepping on toes. Zaire's expression hardened, a dangerous flicker of something dark swirling in his eyes. That doesn't concern you. Doesn't concern me? Wrenna's voice rose, tinged with disbelief. Zaire, this is my life too. I can't just pretend I'm not linked to you now. Don't you see how close it gets? Her heart pounded a frantic tattoo against her ribs. He stepped closer, the air thickening between them, charged. You need to trust me. I can handle this. And at what cost? Wrenna shot back, the spices in the air stinging her nostrils. You're talking about playing a game that could get you killed, or worse, hurt someone I care about. You can't just act like nothing's wrong. She felt their connection pulse in the charged silence, a thread woven from anger, fear, and a desperate yearning. Zaire's face softened, the fierceness giving way to something more vulnerable beneath a man struggling against an invisible weight. Wrenna, he started, his voice low, the intensity shaking her resolve. In a sudden surge of emotion, she stepped closer, closing the distance. I won't let you put yourself in danger, Zaire. I won't stand by while you gamble with like it's some sort of game. Their eyes locked, and Wrenna's breath caught in her throat. She could see the internal battle raging within him, the unwavering protector side clashing with instinctual disregard. Zaire Vellore was a force to be reckoned with, too proud, too fierce, but in that moment she became his tether, grasping the edge of his armor. What do you want from me? He asked, his voice a coiled spring, eyes darkened with emotion. A partner. Her words were soft, almost lost in the warmth of his proximity. I want to be a part of your life, not just an accessory to your chaos, but I need the truth. Zaire's breath hitched and he leaned closer. The world outside faded, leaving just the two of them amid the scent of sweet basil and simmering promise. His gaze dipped to her lips, the tension between them thickening, almost tantalizingly impossible to ignore. I can't promise you safety, Wrenna, he murmured, his breath warm against her skin. No, but you can promise to let me in. In the haze of emotion, Zaire's lips met hers, softly at first, then with a fevered urgency, igniting a fire deep within. It felt like an unspoken pact, a melding of their fears, dreams, and the ferocious forces they navigated together. Time fell away, the rest of the world evaporating. But as the kiss deepened, a fragmented thought whispered at the edge of her consciousness. This dangerous game they were playing had far-reaching stakes. They pulled away, breathless and unsure, lost in the storm of conflicting emotions. And if this new player is as dangerous as they say? Wrenna's voice was small, filled with trepidation. Zaire placed a hand on her cheek, his thumb caressing her skin. Then we played a win. Scene 47. Together again. The twilight sky glimmered like a canvas, awaiting the brush of night, as Wrenna stepped onto the balcony, the scent of blooming jasmine filling the air. Her heart swayed with a melody only she could hear, one that hummed from deep within her as she prepared to confront the man who had turned her life upside down. She leaned against the wrought iron railing, fingers tracing the delicate patterns, as the sea whispered a calming rhythm below. Zaire approached, his footsteps barely disruptive against the wooden floor. He paused, merely a silhouette against the fading light, a silent guardian framed by ethereal hues. She stiffened, the conflict between the warmth of their shared past and the chill of their recent estrangement igniting a storm within her. You look beautiful, he said, his voice low and resonant, slicing through the tension like a warm knife through butter. But his eyes, deep and intense, spoke of so much more regret, yearning, and a fierce desire to reconnect. Wrenna kept her gaze focused on the horizon, the waves crashing rhythmically against the rocks. And yet here we are, each other an ocean apart. The words fell softly, like petals on water, but the weight of them lingered in the cool evening breeze. What do we even say now? Everything that's unsaid has a way of fueling the distance, he replied, stepping closer. The heat radiated from him, warm and all-consuming, leaving no room for half-truths. A shadow danced across Wrenna's features as she turned her head to meet his fierce gaze, feeling the pull of their connection. You need to tell me the truth, Zaire. You can't keep hiding the real you behind what you do. The silence between them thickened, filled with 1,000 unspoken fears. He clenched his jaw, and she noted the way his hands fisted at his sides, muscles tense. You think you know me? The world behind your art, Wrenna. The darkness I hide, it bleeds into everything. He stepped forward, their proximity igniting sparks in the cool air. Wrenna swallowed hard, summoned courage she had been clutching tightly for too long. Help me understand. I'm tired of living in the shadows of your secrets. He leaned in, the thrum between them palpable, yet still bound by hesitation. Maybe I want to take you to the light, if you can trust me, if you can trust yourself. Their eyes locked, an incendiary electricity surging between them. She felt his breath against her skin, warm, tantalizing, familiar. She had missed this, all of it. The way he spoke, the way he looked at her as if she were everything worth fighting for. Trust is easily broken, she whispered, the fear creeping back in, a ghost of her past warming the edges of her heart. What if you hurt me again? He took another step closer, closing the gap as he reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. What if you let me prove to you I've changed? His thumb brushed over her knuckles, igniting memories of laughter and shared dreams. I'll never stop fighting for you, Wrenna. Not now, not ever. A flicker of a smile danced on her lips, but it was brief as she held back, anchored by doubt. You say that, but your world, the world is nothing without you. The fervor in his voice cut through her defenses, reaching beyond the frail boundaries she had set. Let's rewrite our story together. Their eyes met once more, fire and ice melding, each pulse of her heart echoing the heat radiating from him. Wrenna stepped forward, emboldened by the promise of his words. With a flick of her gaze, she signaled her surrender. Tentatively, she leaned toward him, her heart racing like the ocean waves crashing beneath them. And then they collided, lips brushing against each other softly at first, gathering enthusiasm, building a fervent rhythm. Zaire enveloped her in the warmth of his embrace, arms wrapping around her waist, pulling her closer until there was no space left for fear. She melted against him, the kiss igniting every dormant spark in her being as questions disappeared like smoke in the wind. That familiar electric sensation spread through her, wrapping her in safety, carving out a sanctuary from the chaos of their lives. As the kiss deepened, the moonlight bathed them in a golden hue. It was in this moment that Wrenna decided here, amidst the softness, she would trust him and her heart again. Eventually, they pulled apart slowly, breathless, sharing a knowing gaze filled with unspoken promises. Laughter bubbled unexpectedly at the edges, lifting the heaviness that had hung between them for so long. Let's not keep our love a secret anymore, she teased softly, the remnants of tension swirling away like droplets of rain on the ocean. Zaire grinned, his eyes gleaming with mischief. Now that's a challenge I am always willing to accept. Together again, they faced a newly stitched future, hand in hand, unafraid. Scene 48, plans for the future. The low hum of the ocean wrapped around Zaire and Wrenna like a well-worn blanket, the rhythmic crashing of waves against the rocky shore filling the air with both a calm and an electric charge. They stood on the jagged cliffs of a hidden cove, the sun beginning its slow descent, painting the horizon in molten gold and fiery crimson. Wrenna pulled her cardigan tightly around her shoulders, her eyes never leaving the horizon, where the infinity of the ocean mirrored her swirling thoughts. Behind them, Zaire seemed at ease, a man within his element, despite the encroaching shadows of the evening. His intense gaze, usually so focused on the complexities of his world, softened as he studied Wrenna. She was a canvas of emotions. The way her hair danced against the sea breeze seemed to echo the turmoil of her heart. We need to talk about the future, Zaire said, his voice steady, yet there was a slight tremor that betrayed his eagerness. Wrenna's eyebrows furrowed, a stark contrast to the warmth of the sunset. She turned, crossing her arms over her chest defensively. Are you saying you have concrete plans, or is this just a way to distract me from the fact that your world keeps bleeding into mine? Zaire stepped closer, the space between them charged with unspoken intensity. You know it's not simple. My world is messy, but it can be more than just chaos. It can be our chaos. She glared, her voice rising as frustration unfurled. You talk about chaos as if it's something we can hold together like a sculpture of sand. We'll just build it higher and it won't wash away. Her pulse quickened, her heart pounding in time with the waves below. You don't understand how deep this goes. Your decisions put me at risk. A flicker of storm passed through his eyes, then he settled into a calm mask. And my decisions can protect you. Don't you see? You're not just a spectator. You're part of this. You're part of my life, Wrenna. I thought you understood. Part of your life? She scoffed, her words dripping with venom. You make it sound like I'm just an accessory, like I can simply drape myself over your chaos and everything will be fine. Zaire's lips thinned, and the air crackled between them like the tension before a storm. You're more than an accessory. You've woven yourself into the very fabric of my existence without even trying. Don't you care about what we could build together? Rena's resolve faltered momentarily. She swallowed hard, fighting the urge to step closer. Building or tearing down? What about your empire? I'm willing to reshape it all if it means having you by my side, Zaire insisted, his fervor rising. But it seems like instead of dreaming, you're only fixated on what could go wrong. Because I've seen too much go wrong. I've lived in the wreckage of your world. In one powerful stride, he closed the distance, his hand catching hers, his touch like a brand against her skin. And look where we are. This is your chance, Wrenna. We can redefine everything. The weight of his words lingered as he pulled her closer, their foreheads almost touching, breath mingling in the twilight haze. Wrenna struggled against the torrent of emotions, the heat of his proximity battling with the chill of uncertainty. Can you promise me that it won't always be about this dangerous dance? She whispered, her voice barely breaking the hush of the evening tide. Zaire's gaze locked onto hers, fierce and unyielding. I can promise you this. Every choice I make is with you in mind. I will fight with everything to protect what we've found. Can't you see the potential in us? The depth of his conviction washed over her like a wave, and for a moment, the anger ebbed. Wrenna felt the knot in her chest loosening slightly. But how do we even start? With a tentative smile, he leaned in, brushing his lips softly against her temple. The warmth radiated down to the tips of her fingers, sheer, electric. We start with the dream, Wrenna, our dream. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the burgeoning darkness enveloped them, and the world around faded, leaving only the two of them, two stubborn souls standing at the precipice of a shared future, illuminated by the last glimmers of light. Together, then, she breathed, looking into his eyes, filled with the promise of the unknown, entangled and expansive like the night sky about to unfurl before them. Scene 49, challenging the past. The sun dipped low in the horizon, casting a warm, golden light through the open windows of Wrenna's ancestral mansion, but the atmosphere within felt as charged as a summer storm about to break. A figure stood at the edge of the dimly lit parlor, a statuesque silhouette with shadows dancing across his sharp features. Zaire Vellore, with his usual air of confidence, held a clenched fist by his side. "What do you want?" he demanded, his voice low and steady, piercing the silence like a knife through still air. The man before him, dressed in a tailored suit that whispered of luxury, shifted uneasily, his eyes darting between Zaire and the fine art that adorned the walls. "Remember this place, Zaire? It always held secrets. Family ties run deep, don't they?" This was Marcus Drake, a messenger from a time Zaire had hoped to forget. Wrenna stepped into the room, her delicate hand clasped around the edge of the doorway. She sensed the tension instantly, the way Zaire's jaw tightened, how his posture shifted subtly to loom over Marcus. "What secrets?" she asked, her voice steady but laced with curiosity. Marcus's smirk only fueled Zaire's ire. "Just a friendly reminder. Blood ties can be problematic." He locked eyes with Wrenna, a smile that didn't reach his eyes creeping onto his face, making Zaire's heart race with protectiveness. He felt the urge to step in front of Wrenna, to shield her from Marcus's unflinching gaze. "You've made your point," Zaire interjected, forcing his voice through gritted teeth. He stepped closer to Marcus, the air bristling around them. "Leave now while you still can." "Or what?" Marcus taunted, taking a slow step forward, unperturbed by the threat. "You think you can erase the past? This is just the beginning. Wrenna's got her family legacy, and you're nothing but a storm cloud hanging over her. It's only a matter of time." Wrenna stepped back, her heart pounding, the words wrapping around her mind like a vice. "What are you implying?" she asked, a tremor in her voice that belied her composure. Suddenly, Zaire's expression shifted, his eyes glinting with a determined fire. "Marcus doesn't know anything about your family, Wrenna," he said, his tone firm but laced with urgency. "You are stronger than that." But before Wrenna could respond, Marcus erupted into laughter, the sound grating like nails on a chalkboard. "Stronger? Look around, Zaire. You're part of a world that thrives on fear and control. In this game, Wrenna's just another pawn." The words sliced through the room, and Wrenna felt a chill creeping along her spine. Zaire whipped around to face her, his brows furrowed in concern, inviting her to meet his gaze. Don't listen to him. You are anything but a pawn. I don't want to be a part of your world, Wrenna replied, her voice fiercer than she intended, surprising even herself. I want to understand my own past, Zaire. I need to know what I'm dealing with. Your past doesn't have to define you, Zaire said, his voice dropping to a desperate softness, as if that secret bump of vulnerability would draw her closer. Maybe that's where you're wrong, Wrenna shot back, her emotions swirling, a whirlwind of valor and fear. Marcus watched them with glee, the tension coiling ever tighter in the elegant space. There it is, the very uncertainty you both try so desperately to outrun. But it's coming for you, he chuckled, reveling in his small victory. Zaire's eyes shifted back to Marcus with the intensity of a lion sizing up an intruder. Get out, now, or you'll regret it. And what are you going to do? Neutering your own past won't install a happy ending. In a swift motion, Zaire lunged forward, the air crackling with danger as he grabbed Marcus by the collar and pulled him close, their faces inches apart. You don't know who you're messing with. Wrenna held her breath, the sight a potent cocktail of tension and exhilaration. Zaire's raw power sent a shiver down her spine, and yet deep inside, a voice whispered that perhaps this was not the kind of love she had dreamt of, but it was beautiful nonetheless. I know exactly who you are, Marcus grinned, unfazed, his arrogance only inciting Zaire's fury. But soon, Wrenna won't just view you as a protector, but as a bitter reminder. Mark my words. With a disdainful push, Zaire released Marcus, who staggered back but recovered with a flourish. Enjoy the calm while it lasts, boys. I'll be watching. He turned, the door creaking ominously as he made his exit, leaving a suffocating silence in his wake. Wrenna stared at Zaire, concern tightening her chest. Is he right? Am I simply caught in your storm? A flicker of vulnerability flashed in Zaire's eyes. You are not a pawn, Wrenna. You're so much more. Yet, that tension hung in the air like a loaded gun, both of them aware that the past never truly stayed buried. Wrenna took a step closer, her voice barely a whisper. And what if I'm not ready for the truth? Zaire brushed his fingers against her arm, their connection electric yet shadowed by uncertainty, the weight of fate pressing down upon them both. Then we will face it together, whatever it may be. Scene 50. An unexpected threat. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting an amber glow over the lush gardens of Vanderbilt Manor. Wrenna stood in the grand dining room, the echo of laughter lingering in her ears from the recent gathering. Yet a heavy weight sat on her shoulders. She absently traced the intricate carvings of the mantelpiece, breathing in the scent of polished mahogany. The lingering remnants of the meal, rosemary and garlic, gave the room an inviting warmth, but she felt anything but comfortable. Zaire erupted through the doorway, his presence igniting the air. His tailored suit fit him like a second skin, accentuating his athletic build. His eyes, sharp and alert, settled on her with a fierce intensity that both thrilled and unsettled her. Wrenna, he said, voice low yet urgent, a tremor of concern barely masked. She could hear the weight of the world and its potential threats in that single utterance. Something's wrong? She asked, tilting her head, sensing a storm brewing beneath his composed exterior. Daniel sent word. There's been chatter something's coming for us, for you. His gaze was unyielding, a stark contrast to the warmth of the evening light outside. Wrenna's heart lurched. What do you mean, coming for us? The taste of fear, metallic and sharp, bloomed in her mouth. Whoever wanted your grandmother's estate is back, Zaire said through clenched teeth, his jaw tightening imperceptibly. We need to prepare. The gravity of his words settled like a heavy blanket, but amidst the dread, their connection simmered with undiluted intensity. She could see the muscles in his arms flex as he approached her, his protective instincts radiating off him as if he were a living shield. How do you know this? She pressed, mind racing toward the implications. Street rumors, he replied, his voice a blend of determination and unease. They've caught wind of your inheritance and threatened to take everything from you, including. He hesitated, the raw emotion between them almost crystalline in the electric air. She crossed her arms, a defensive posture, but her chest tightened under his scrutiny. Including me? His gaze softened momentarily. You're not just a target, you're the heart of this legacy, and I won't let anyone harm you. They stood frozen in time, her breath steadying against his fierce declaration. Suddenly, the tension shattered like glass. The back door swung open, and a group of her friends stumbled in, void of the gravity that enveloped Wrenna and Zaire. Laughter erupted as if on cue, breaking the dire mood with spontaneous joy. "Wrenna, you'll never guess what happened," laughed Malik, wiping sweat from his forehead after an intense game of basketball. His exuberance was contagious, and the room brightened with their presence. Zaire stepped back, magic stuttered, the warmth faded as reality returned. "This isn't just us? It's perfect," shouted Ava, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "We've got games and snacks. Come on, join us." Wrenna felt conflicted, caught between the joyful chaos and the looming threat that Zaire had just unveiled. "Guys, we really can't. It will just be a moment," Zaire interjected firmly but gently, his attention shifting between her and the enthusiastic crowd. "Just know, we're still working on this." "Relax. There's no time like the present," Mullick declared, slapping a friendly hand on Zaire's shoulder, demanding attention. "Wrenna, you've got to come play. Stop fretting, life's too short." "Life is also very dangerous," Zaire muttered, though his posture softened unexpectedly, laughter dancing in his eyes as he observed her friends with a reluctant fondness. "What about some ice cream?" Pip chimed in, her arms filled with rainbow sprinkles, ready to distract the chaos. Wrenna exchanged glances with Zaire, her heart racing, the thrill of the unexpected echoing the danger that loomed. She knew too well the weight of responsibility that rested on her shoulders, but felt the warmth of camaraderie pull her in. Zaire's lips curved slightly, the corners lifting as laughter bubbled over, his stern facade momentarily surfacing beneath layers of connectivity. "All right, okay," he relented, his tone lightening. "We'll play, just don't expect us to go easy on you." As the laughter spilled through the room, tension gave way to joy. But in the back of her mind, Wrenna resolved to face whatever darkness awaited outside, alongside Zaire, a fortification against the chaos that awaited. The game could commence, but their unity in the face of an unexpected threat had already begun to steep in the air between them. "Watch your backs," Zaire warned playfully, his eyes locking on Wrenna, silently promising she wouldn't face this alone. And just like that, amid the cacophony of fun, she found her own strength, an unwavering bond taking root amidst the laughter. Scene 51, Reflections and Regrets. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden hue that mixed with the imminent storm clouds swirling ominously over the mansion's garden. The air was thick with the scent of impending rain, stirring nostalgia in Wrenna, a sensation she had both cherished and feared. She stood by the grand window of her ancestral home, gazing out at the swaying branches, their leaves quaking in the wind like unspoken secrets trying to escape. "Zaire," she murmured, almost lost in the unspoken memories that lingered between them, a tapestry of laughter, heartbreak, and decisions that felt both like shackles and lifelines. "Wrenna, you've been through hell and back," Zaire replied, his voice just behind her, deep and resonant. He stepped closer, the warmth of his body sending a shiver down her spine. "And somehow you've managed to emerge from the flames. I admire that." She turned, meeting his gaze, and the world outside vanished as their eyes locked. There was no hiding in those depths where vulnerability, hope, and lingering doubt mingled. "But at what cost, Zaire? Every step I took led me here, but I never asked to be in this mess." Thunder rumbled in the distance, as if punctuating the weight of her words. Zaire took a breath, moving closer still, his intentions unreadable. "Sometimes life thrusts us into chaos. We can either fight it or we can embrace what it makes us." His charisma enveloped her, an irresistible pull that both comforted and frightened her. A flash of lightning illuminated the room, and Wrenna instinctively flinched. "I don't want to lose myself in the chaos. I want to find myself." "Then let's find a way together," he said, his sincerity reducing the distance between them. Their hearts raced as the storm mirrored the inner turbulence they both felt. With that, Wrenna turned away, pacing the elegant oak floor, her fingers trailing over the polished surface. "You funded my recovery, Zaire. You've been my hidden savior and my biggest secret. I still don't understand why you chose to help me." "I was drawn to you, Wrenna," he confessed, a hint of vulnerability seeping into his voice. "When I learned of your struggles, I couldn't stand idly by. It was more than just a transaction. It was instinct. Not every monster wears a mask." "Are you calling yourself a monster?" she asked sharply, her heart pounding with a mixture of concern and fear. Not a monster, but a man shaped by his choices. The world expects us to flee from our past, but we must face it head on if we're to grow. Zaire's eyes sparked with intensity, his passion palpable. As rain began to patter gently against the window, Wrenna watched droplets race each other, each one reflecting a fragment of a life lived under scrutiny and longing. But what if confronting it only tears us apart? What if I can't bear the weight of your darkness? Zaire stepped forward, closing the gap, his voice a low murmur. Then let's carry it together. I am more than my past, just as you are more than your fears. I want to be with you, Wrenna. Her breath caught at the intensity of his gaze, raw and unfiltered. I want that too, but I cannot let your life put me in danger. The world you inhabit is a risk worth taking, he interrupted, the storm outside crescendoing, unveiling the tumult of their emotions. You think I don't understand risk? I've made choices that haunt me, but I want to fight for our future, not just survive. And what if surviving is all I know how to do? She whispered, her voice tinged with grief. Zaire reached for her hand, capturing it with his, grounding her with a strength that made her pulse race. Then let me teach you how to thrive. We can't outrun our shadows, Wrenna, but together we can find a way to dance with them. The weight of his words, heavy yet liberating, hung in the air. With the rain cascading down, the world blurred into a muted backdrop as their shared sentiment flickered between them. A tumultuous dance of acceptance, forgiveness, and emerging trust. Starting now, she murmured softly, their fingers intertwining, ready to face whatever storm lay ahead together. Let's dance. Scene 52. Into the fire. The late afternoon light bled through the grand windows of Wrenna's inherited mansion, casting an orange hue across the polished oak floor, whispering secrets of the past. Dust motes danced in the shafts of light, hovering around the two figures who stood beneath the ornate chandelier that had once illuminated countless gatherings. The weight of their situation hung heavy in the air, thickening the atmosphere with unspoken tensions. Wrenna's brow furrowed as she examined a series of photographs spread across the dining table. Each image was a fragment of the life she had only begun to understand, a clash of her grandmother's genteel legacy and the sinister world she had stumbled into. Zaire, look at this, she said, her voice a mix of excitement and apprehension. She leaned closer, drawing Zaire's gaze. At nearly 6 feet, Zaire Vellore loomed over her, his presence a blend of strength and swirling complexity. He grunted, his fingertips grazing the edge of the table while he scrutinized the images, mysterious figures appropriating her grandmother's estate. A fleeting flicker of concern crossed his face, but he masked it beneath a veneer of cool indifference. What do you think they want, Wrenna? Wrenna's pulse quickened, her thoughts a chaotic storm of fear and determination. I don't know, but we can't wait to find out. These people, they aren't just asking questions, they are making threats. She glanced up at Zaire, witnessing the conflicting emotions etched along his jawline, part protectiveness, part frustration. Aren't you being a bit dramatic? It's just business, he snapped, folding his arms tightly, his silhouette stark against the golden light, reflecting his tension back onto her. Her eyes flashed, the fiery spirit inside her igniting. Just business? They're invading my space, Zaire. This isn't a game. A slender finger jabbed toward the photographs, emphasizing her point. It's everything I have left of my family, and I won't let it slip away without a fight. Zaire stepped closer, the air between them vibrating with unexpressed emotions. You think it's easier for me? You dive headfirst into this mess without considering the consequences. Your safety is at stake because of this, because of us. I am not some delicate flower waiting to be saved. Wrenna shot back, the words hurling into the space between them like arrows. She pivoted, her breath coming harshly as the reality of their increasingly intertwined fates pressed down on her. This she hadn't anticipated. Then stop acting like one. Zaire fired, his voice low but charged, drawing her eyes back to him. Every time you run into danger, I have to remind myself there's a line I can't cross. His hands were clenched, the muscles in his arms defined in the fading light. I promise to keep you safe? By what? Locking me up? Wrenna interjected, her tone laced with rising indignation. She stepped back, the air between them crackling with tension. or by paying for my recovery, which I didn't ask for. I'm not your charity project, Zaire. Zaire's icy demeanor shattered for a moment. He stepped toward her, frustration and longing wrestling for dominance in his vibrant gaze. You think I regret helping you? I never meant for it to complicate things between us. I only wanted you to heal, to feel whole. Feeling whole isn't about money or protection. It's about trust. She spat, her pulse racing with passion and resentment. Their connection deepened into something raw, a mixture of empathy and unresolved challenges that lingered like burnt sugar in the air. Zaire's features softened, vulnerability creeping into the edges of his intensity. Trust? You want to talk about trust after everything? Look around, Wrenna. This isn't a safe place. She inhaled sharply, the weight of their proximity thrumming through her, blending anger with something else entirely. And yet, despite everything, here we are. I don't want your protection. I want you. I don't want to fight anymore. The admission spilled from her lips, causing the tumult of emotions to swirl. Zaire paused, the silence heavy with unvoiced desires as their gazes locked. The tension that had once threatened to tear them apart transformed into something palpable, an ache cloaked in longing. We fight the enemies, he murmured, stepping closer, closing the gap between them until their breaths mingled. And what do we fight for? She whispered, her heart pounding as her body responded without thought. Each other, he replied, a gentle intensity igniting in his eyes as he reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers, a promise forged amidst the embers of their argument. Underneath the flickering chandelier, they stood suspended. A moment of stillness enveloped them in the firestorm of unresolved feelings. Her voice trembled as she concluded, "Then let's fight together." Scene 53, Under Siege. The air around Wrenna Vanderbilt's historic mansion crackled with tension, as though the very walls bore witness to the tempest brewing within. Outside, shards of sunlight struggled through the shadows, illuminating the cracked marble staircase that led to the grand entrance. Each step was marred by memories of laughter and warmth, now shrouded in the encroaching menace of an uncertain future. Inside, the scent of aged wood mingled with the faint, bittersweet trace of lavender from the vase on the mantel, a testament to the beauty that could be choked by chaos. Wrenna stood by the window, fingers trembling slightly on the glass, her heart racing as she tried to dismiss the echoes of gunfire. It had become a harsh symphony, a reminder of the world she had recently inhabited, a world with Zaire Vellore at its center. "Wren, we have to move. Now." Zaire's voice sliced through the haze of her thoughts. His tone, laced with urgency, sent a shiver through her. He didn't wear the facade of a crime boss now, but instead radiated the fierce protector she had come to know. His gaze pierced through her momentary fear. A sudden crack of the door jolted her. Zaire's hand shot out, pulling her tightly against him as they ducked behind an antique armchair upholstered in faded cream. The wood creaked under his weight, and she could feel the tension surging off him, warm and undeniable. "Stay low," he murmured against her ear, his breath warm and electrifying, grounding her in the here and now. Wrenna's heart thudded against her ribs, amplified by fear and an undeniable thrill. She could feel his pulse, strong and steady. "Zaire, if this is about your past," she began, but he cut her off with a gesture. "No time for distractions," he replied, his eyes narrowed, scanning the room for threats. The shadows tugged at the edges of her vision, tightening around them like an unwanted embrace. "Right," she breathed, clarity washing over her. Outside, a roar of engines rumbling, threatening filled the air, punctuated by the sounds of shouting voices, their urgency underscored by the metallic tang of danger. Without thinking, she reached for his hand. For a brief moment, their fingers laced together, warmth bleeding into the cold uncertainty of their situation. Zaire glanced down, surprise flickering across his features before he tightened his grip. The world outside was a cacophony of chaos, yet in that instant, they shared an unspoken vow shielding one another, no matter the cost. Suddenly, the door burst open, and a figure stormed in, a young man with wild eyes and a gun gripped tightly in his hands. "Get down!" he shouted, panic threading through his voice. Wrenna's body instinctively tensed. Before she could react, Zaire was on his feet, his fierce demeanor morphing into a lethal precision. "Who sent you?" he demanded, a growl rumbling from deep within. The intruder faltered, and Zaire didn't waste a heartbeat advancing toward him. "You're not even supposed to be here." Voices echoed from outside, drawing nearer as the realization hit Wrenna. They were under siege, a web spun tightly by the remnants of Zaire's former life. The threat was real and present, and she felt the suffocating weight of it all. The clarity of that moment drove something deeper than fear. It lit a fire beneath the surface of her uncertainty. With the gunman caught off guard, Zaire lunged forward, a blur of motion and intent. Wrenna couldn't look away as he disarmed the man in one fluid movement, pinning him against the wall. The bare light illuminated the tension in Zaire's jaw, a daunting reminder of both his strength and vulnerability. "What do you want?" Zaire's voice was low, fierce, raw. It sent tendrils of adrenaline coursing through her. Just let us go," the intruder stammered, eyes darting with fear. There was an edge of desperation that flickered, but behind it was something darker, an unyielding loyalty to forces they couldn't see.